the third Meet the Candidate session for the Guild Election Week 2022. We are live in the M&D room on Streatham campus. I am one of your co-heads of News at Expression FM, your student campus radio. I'm Laura, and in the audience with me today is my lovely co-head of news, who will be our roving reporter when it comes to audience questions. This will be live streamed on the Guild's Facebook and Instagram site. You can also keep up and ask questions virtually with using the hashtag XElections22, EXE and the numbers 22. So the format of this Meet the Candidate session is that the three candidates who have drawn straws and come at a random selection will be asked questions by myself and our audience live in the studio and online. But before we get started, I've been asked to tell you that this event is not expecting any fire drills. So in the event that we do hear one, the fire exits are up to my top left, my top right, and to the side of me over here by the door by the curtains. So without further ado, my first candidate for VP Education is Thomas Glover. Would you like to come and join me? Hiya, Thomas.
Hello.
Seen a lot of you this week.
Yeah, what else? Here we go.
Yeah, well, there we go. Ready for another session. So I want to start with just a little introduction. Why are you running for this role?
So I mainly chose to run for VP Education as a sort of follow-up for most of my experience that I've done within student representation and student activities. So mainly in student representation, which I had most of my experience within first and second year, starting university in September of 2019, joining the student representation scheme, which I thought was a really useful and very valuable scheme in being able to support and ensure student feedback is recognised by departments and by the university on improving the student courses. And so I think that's one of the sort of things that I'm quite proud of being able to get involved in, sort of like the opportunity to be able to raise student voice and ensure that it's recognised by the university.
Fantastic. Well, there you mentioned about hearing the student voice and student feedback. One of the points on the job application on the Guild website is that you'll be leading on a portfolio of student priorities. So I was wondering, how would you get this information?
I think so. Most of my sort of information around trying to find out what students value most and what are they sort of key things is by talking to them. I think rather than utilising social media and emails, which can be quite drastically challenging. Not everyone has social media, for example, or some people do find emails quite long and quite overly detailed. So being able to go onto campus, or whether it's St Luke's or Streatham, being able to get both sides of the community, of the university community, and being able to figure out what students what issues students want to be addressed is one of my sort of key focuses.
So there, it was interesting. You mentioned about the students on St Luke's campus. So how we ensure that their voices are heard and included? So
I mainly want to have the ability to go on to St Luke's. So it's not just, I don't specifically just want to be like, I'm based in Streatham, so I'm going to stay in Streatham the whole time. Being able to have opportunities to go on to St Luke's, where it's like for drop-in sessions at one of the sort of locations on St Luke's, just as a sort of opportunity for those students to be able to, rather than having for them to have to transport or walk all the way over to Streatham to actually be able to talk to me. So being able to have an opportunity to be able to go to them and be able to find out what they want as their sort of main priorities, as well as the students that are here on the main campus, is going to be one of my sort of key focuses on it.
So let's go back to what this role is. You are running for VP Education. So one of the big issues that we've had this year is concerning extenuating circumstances, especially with ILPs. So I want to understand, how would you rectify this issue?
So I know that, and it was mentioned on the debate on Thursday last week. I think ILPs as something that has been raised as a particular issue that the university has had mixed opinions on in terms of trying to resolve and support students for. In terms of attaining ILPs, there have been a number of students that have wanted or wished to attain one for whichever certain reasons there are, and haven't been able to because of the process that the university uses for it. So being able to take the concerns that the students have to the university, for them to be able to rectify or utilize and see what's wrong with the process to be able to fix it, so that those students can actually be able to attain it. Because I think if they deserve to have one, they should have one.
I believe actually this issue, the main problem concerning ILPs was using them for extenuating circumstance to apply for exams. So how would you go about that problem?
I think in that sort of case, I think it would be still on the same point of figuring out exactly where exactly which sort of aspects of it they are actually sort of focused on, where it's around trying to get extensions for it, or whether it's around having more time to during the exam, so having extra time, which I know is a key aspect under individual learning plans. So being able to have those, being able to fill out the specifics around it, rather than just want to get it for exams generally, which is quite a bit vague and a bit there isn't much detail that goes into it. So being able to see exactly, so I can be able to work with the university to try and see exactly how it can be able to be implemented for that student.
So we've just been discussing exams. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, after the pandemic, there have been many a restructuring in the way that exams happen, whether they be online or in person, or if the duration is extended over a period of a week or 24 hours. I was wondering, now the pandemic is hopefully coming towards an end, and we've come back this year doing face-to-face teaching. What do you think the future looks like for exams for students?
I mean, I think a lot of, I know for many departments, they're still focusing on potentially continuing with the whole blended learning approach that the university has taken during this year, particularly, even though we're still in the pandemic. So sort of looking at future, and hopefully when we do get out of the pandemic, I think the sort of blended learning approach is going to be one thing that may stick around. Where it does or not is dependent on what happens. But in that sort of circumstance, when it comes to exams and students who may not be able to come onto campus or may not be able to come to Exeter, giving them a chance to be able to get involved with and have their examinations is going to be a key aspect. So if they can't come to Exeter for a certain reason, they can still be able to access their exams and still be able to complete it efficiently. So that's why I do think having both options for students, where it's for specific circumstances, is a key aspect to look at. But if and I've mentioned it before, if the university does take one approach, they should stick to that approach and don't give that for a specific student or a specific group of students. They should say it's in person for everyone, or it's online for everyone, but it's not for one specific student. They don't get everyone gets a choice, but if it has to be one singular route, they should stick with just one route.
I think there you seem to contradict yourself a little bit, so I'd like to just bring you back to that. How can you make sure if they do stick to one group, one rule, and expand over the others for all students and encompassing all students, how are you going to make sure that then, you said the students who find it difficult to come to campus, whether that be international or they're less able-bodied, to then also have the same experience as other students?
No, that's fair. I think it is something that's definitely going to be, has to be something that's just to be looked at by the university. Whether exactly the route that they take has to be something that is accessible for all students, so there can't be something that students get sort of fair chances for. So if it's in person, the ones who are in Exeter are the only ones that can attend it. So the ones that on that can't come to Exeter will be a little bit disadvantaged by that sort of perspective. So being able to find an accessible route for everyone is going to be, when it comes to exams, is definitely going to be a key focus for it.
So just touched on there, Bon, accessibility and the idea of inclusivity, and I think that is very much part of your platform. So I wanted to know now, branching out to students that come from lower income families or lower income backgrounds, how would you work with, for example, your VP Liberation and Equality Officer to ensure that these students achieve the same accessibility towards their education?
That's fine. I think, so one of my main points in my campaign is focused around academic support, and that's not just for the generic university community, but it's for everyone. So I want to work with VP Liberation and Equality to ensure that students recognise where the support they can be able to attain, where it's through the university, through the university's welfare and wellbeing services, or through the Guild's advice team, So they have that ability to be able to talk, to be able to have that chance, the opportunities to be able to, if they want to raise questions around mental health, or if it's academic concerns they have, so it's or being pointed in the right direction where they should go to talk to one of the academic tutors in their department or module convener, being able to have the chance to be able to talk to someone who can give them the right support, where it's directioning on who to go to, or if it's something specifically on a sort of generic academic approach, will be something that was definitely in my top priorities and top focuses.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much, Thomas. I think we're going to go now to see if we have any audience questions. That's a resounding silence there. Anyone have anything in audience? Do we have anything online? No questions. Well, fortunately, Thomas, you're back to me. I'm sure you'll be sick of me by the end of the week.
Oh, no way. I can tell you that, wouldn't you?
Oh, bless you. So I want to draw on your personal statement because I feel like there was something very interesting in it that can be applied for all the candidates here, and I will be asking a very similar question to all the ones coming after. You mentioned that you follow the campaign #decolonize_education, #students_deserve_better. So I wanted to understand if you could expand on these points and how you would use these two to help with looking at the curriculum for the students here in Exeter.
Yeah, that's a good question. So when I was a student rep, it's one of my main points that I did look at of exploring sort of national approaches to student support and student academic success. The NUS, even though everyone has said, and there's a large number of students that have mixed opinions about the NUS, I think they do run pretty positive campaigns that are actually quite successful when it comes to supporting students nationally and utilising them I know the Guild has worked occasionally to utilise some of their education and support guides and various different campaigns to be able to ensure that students get to utilise them in the sort of best way to help Exeter students. So I think I would encourage students to at least have a look at some of the campaigns that the NUS runs, because they are quite efficient, where it's just reading the open letters that they write to the government, or where it's signing the letters, which occasionally a large number of students do. And seeing where there's some points that are quite interesting across other universities as well. So some things that other universities and some other students from other universities are interested in supporting or interested in discovering further support for. Both of the two campaigns that I did mention were quite successful. I know that the various different VP educations here at the Times being able to try and ensure that students get a notice of it, so a way to get for them to get involved with it, even if there's not something massive on campus about it. So my sort of main points on NUS campaigns is encouraging students to get involved and to sort of take a look at what's available and how they can be able to sort of get involved with them, whether it's signing the open letter or just reading the open letters that they write to the government or to other national bodies, is something that I think is quite interesting, because it is quite an interesting thing to be able to get involved with.
No, very much so. It is very interesting. But I want to know, how would you ensure that you increase student engagement with these?
So I think in these points, most of it will become down to interactions on campus and being able to, where it's running different campaigns on campus related to some of the NUS campaigns. So I know Students Deserve Better was focused a lot around where we're heading towards the start of the pandemic, and everyone was in panic mode, and sort of because there were a lot of government-based controversies around support for education during that time. So I know that, and I know everyone's had many opinions on what the government's stance has been on education support over the last 2 years. So I think definitely interaction on campus, because as I said previously, communications online can be a little bit tricky for most students. So finding a way to get students involved with and being able to talk to students about some of these issues that are raised nationally and seeing what their opinions are on it and where we should do something about it in Exeter is something that I think would be quite interesting to explore and see, because not everyone will share their opinions about some of these national concerns. So being able to bring it down to Exeter will definitely be something to look at.
Do you have any ideas of what strategies you would use to implement these? Which strategies you would use to actually get this engagement? You say talking to students, but how are you going to go out there and do it?
I mean, I think most of the sort of campaigns that they're all very different. I think finding the ones that would be most relevant and that we could have most impact towards, and being able to share and find out voices from students at least, so I can be able to take it to the NUS, being like, this is something that's quite interesting, that Exeter has quite an interesting focus on, quite interesting, passionate stance towards. What can we do to be able to sort of recognise it so it can go to other universities and be like, we have this opinion on it and you guys should try and follow up with us. In terms of sort of interactions, it is quite a challenging one. I'm not sure exactly what my sort of strategies would be at the moment. I think taking a look into and just exploring further exactly what campaigns the NUS does run, it would be my first approach to it. And then after that, finding out what would be the best way to be able to relay some of this information to students, where it is by interacting with them, even though it's quite a large crowd. Some sort of interaction with them wouldn't be as such primarily utilizing online, just being able to generally just get involved with them so they can actually get a chance to have a sort of opinion on it.
Thank you very much. I feel like we're drawing to the end of our time here, but we do have a chance for one more question. I want to end on, why do you think people should vote for you as opposed to your fellow candidates?
There we go. I think most of my sort of opinions are focused around community and academic support. Community is has been one of my quite prominent focuses from being a subject rep, and also being involved with student activities this year, and being able to sort of look at the value of the guilds, because I think the guild has an important part of student life. Students get involved with active societies and can be involved with student voice quite a lot. So being able to have those and bring those opportunities to students is something that I think is quite key. I mean, when I started, I don't know if every department does it, but we had our subject chair at the time did a presentation on student voice and like how to get involved with it. And that was my sort of preliminary point in becoming a student rep, was by hearing from other students what student voice is about, and how you can be able to get involved and be able to bring this big impact to ensuring student voice is recognised by the university. So one of the sort of things, and I've mentioned it in my personal statement, is about raising the importance of student representation and being able to students to have those opportunities to be able to find out about student voice generally, and how they can be able to become student reps and be able to raise those voices to student communities, to the university, so that their peers and their community, and ultimately the whole community generally, is recognised by the university to improve and ensure everyone has a positive academic and social experience during their time at Exeter.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much. Quickly before you go, where can people find your campaign?
So they can find my campaign I'm on Facebook. My campaign's on Facebook and Instagram at Tom for VP Education. And I'll also be out and about on both Streatham and St Luke's over today and tomorrow, to be able to give everyone a chance if they want to come up and talk to me about some of my points in my campaign, and also if they have any sort of opinions or any questions they want to ask about it.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much, Thomas.
Thank you.
I'm going to welcome now to the stage our next candidate running for VP Education, Jack Liversedge. Let me help you.
I think it should be okay.
Oh, well, this is my first time meeting Jack, and
hello.
I wonder why, but the elephant in the room, why we haven't met him before.
Just doing tricks on my bike.
Oh, bless. If you need anything throughout the interview, please let us know. The water might be a tricky one,
yes,
but I feel like the two of us might manage with that.
Yeah, I might leave it.
Oh, fantastic. Well, hello, Jack. Thank you for joining us today. Hello. Just an easy one to start with. Why, out of all the opportunities, did you pick to run for VP Education?
Yeah, okay. So for me, it was an obvious choice. I haven't always loved education. Growing up, I had sort of quite a love-hate relationship with learning, anything academic related. But for me, coming to university has sort of completely changed. Ooh, is the mic okay? I don't know. Yep.
I think the sound guy's over there, so if he says yes,
okay,
you'll be
yep.
fine.
Perfect. So for me, university changed all of that, really. I think support I've received, whether it be tutor support, academic support, well-being support, has completely turned it around. And actually, I don't want to leave education anymore. I want to stay. I guess really it comes down to I know my experiences of education have changed, and actually I would like to sort of be a catalyst for that to happen to others.
Lovely. Well, there you mentioned that your experience of education has changed, but with Strategy 2030, the experience of education will change for many students. I want to know what your opinions are on this change.
2030. I'll be completely honest, it's not something I'm completely aware of.
Don't worry, I'll explain it to you right now.
I'm sorry.
Actually, no, sorry. Don't worry. So Strategy 2030 is the idea that the college system will be changed into main faculties, one of health and medical science, one of humanities, arts, social sciences and law, and one of environment and sustainability. Yep. So instead of having our Queen's or separate college, it will all be our humanities college. It will put into these faculties, again, a change in the administration and whichever faculty the students belong to. So what do you think of now hearing about these, what the opinions of students will be?
Yeah, I think with it, as with anything, I think you need to give it a go. If change is coming, I think we need to be quite proactive at getting the opinions of students to see how they feel with the changes. I think what is really important is at the moment colleges have reps. And I guess if we're expanding colleges, we don't want to lose some of those reps, which perhaps represent smaller courses. I know sort of Streatham and St Luke's can be dominated by certain bigger courses, and actually these voices are often heard, but it's about hearing everybody's voice. So I think it's something which, as I say, I apologise, I don't know a huge amount about at the moment, but it's something which I feel probably should be given a go. But again, it would need to be closely watched, and the opinions of students and staff also would need to be taken into account.
Lovely. So there you talk about the opinions of students. I want to ask you, what strategies do you have in mind to make sure you get student feedback?
Yeah, sure. So for me, it's all about communication and approachability. So I think it's important as a VP to be someone people can come and see, whether that be in the office, in the forum when you're out and about, or sending a message via email and other platforms. I think communication is key, as I know my other candidates have also stated. So I think it's about trying to communicate as best you can, really, with students, so they feel comfortable being able to communicate with you also, but also having discussions with course reps, people who are already in the position. I think as VP, we're in the position for 1 year, possibly 2. So we are sort of in a way sort of coming in, taking over a baton, and moving on again. So I think you can't come in and completely rewrite everything. You need to sort of take the advice of people who've already done it, and people who are already in the roles.
So there you mentioned that you are there for a short amount of time and you're picking up the baton, ready to pass it on. I want to ask you, do you have any ideas of how you would go about when there is a drastic event? We've had the pandemic, or something that's like a social change that happens locally or on a national scale. How you make sure that students who are affected by this and their education is affected by this, how would you ensure that they are held to the same standard as other students?
Yeah, sure. So again, I think it comes down to communication. I don't think we can assume what works for every student. And I think if someone isn't able to come to campus, for example, I think we need to know about that and try and work with everybody to ensure that there is a solution to that. And I think, don't get me wrong, I think it's hard for the university to be able to plan for things like this, the pandemic. But I think being able to offer as many options as possible. So I think blended learning, online learning for those who find it easier to access learning that way, but also for those people to know that they haven't been forgotten also. So perhaps a check-in every couple of weeks would be good as well. I think if you're remote working from home, it can be really beneficial in terms of not needing to be on campus, but equally it can feel quite isolating as well. So I think it's just about ensuring all the support is available. And again, that comes down to communication. I think we need to find out from the students what they want, rather than telling them what they want.
There again, you stress the importance of student voices being heard. So in respect to these local and national scale events, do you know who you would go to make sure that their voices are heard on the same scale, on a proportionate scale?
Sure. Again, I'll be honest, I don't. I think it would be something that if elected I would need to seek advice on. I think for me it would be really important if elected to maintain ties with the current VP of Education and also previous VP Educations if they wanted to. I don't want to sort of bother them if they don't want, but I think it's important to draw upon knowledge which is already present within the university, past and present, to make those decisions. I'll be honest, I don't know exactly who it would be to go to, but I would find out.
Okay, so I want to come back to you and your stance as a candidate and your campaign. What is, would you say, the main goal if you were to achieve this role?
Yeah, okay. So for me, as I said at the start, education has been completely sort of flipped on its head really for me since coming to uni, down to the support I've received. But I do acknowledge that it's sometimes not particularly easy to access in the first instance, whether that be students not sure where to access the support, or perhaps time constraints or eligibility requirements. I think if you need support, I've been there myself. I think it's often in a time where you are stressed. I know I don't mean to downplay, but actually seeking support in those situations is often quite tough. And I think the university needs to be perhaps more proactive at reaching out to students who are sort of struggling, I guess. Apologies, I've forgotten the question.
This is okay, just your main goal. So
yeah. So it would be about increasing awareness of what support is available, and how that support could be obtained.
And how would you say make sure that the students receive this support and that they reach out? How will you reach out to students? Do you have any ideas in mind in that respect?
Yeah, so I think it comes down to working with, I'm not sure it's necessarily about improving the current system. I think it's sort of taking the current system and working with what we already have in place, perhaps making signposting easier, perhaps having someone dedicated that you can reach out to who can guide you through the process of taking you to the right person. But again, it would be something that I would be happy to take advice on if I was elected.
Lovely. Well, I think we've come to the time. You can have a bit of breather from me that we can reach out. Oh, bless you.
Wipe my sweat off my forehead.
Oh. To the audience questions or any questions online. So first I'll go to the room. Are there any questions from the people sitting here now? Oh, Reese is there at the ready.
We do have a question from an ex-media member, if you'd like to hear that one.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
It's another one of us.
You'd be great. Yeah.
So this one is, how are you planning on balancing widening access to academic support alongside the struggle with what are currently quite limited resources?
Sure. I think it would be something, and apologies, it's been something I have stated a lot today, but I think it comes down to trying to take advice from everybody around you, so existing members of the guild, current VP of Education, and staff members to determine what is available, what is possible. I don't want to sort of be someone who can sort of comes up here and says I can promise the world, but I think it needs to be a grounded approach, a realistic approach, but an approach which is based upon advice from a lot of people around me, if elected. Sorry, I don't know if that answered the question.
I don't know if there's any more in the room or online, but I've got one that I was going to ask, so may as well. You've talked about when you get elected, you'll be talking to past VPs of education. Have you had a chance to talk through some of your current plans with Bella, who I think was here but has now gone off to do the work that she was elected to do?
Yes. So a couple of weeks ago, I did speak with Bella. She was brilliant at running through sort of what a week would look like. As in the position of VP of Education, it was sort of quite an insight, if you like, into the day to day. I can see how busy she is, and sort of the responsibilities of the role. I'll be honest, I haven't done as much as I had hoped, but if elected, I would sort of, before assuming position, I would endeavour to find out and take more advice and sort of gather some more information.
Are there any more questions? I think you're back to me, don't worry.
Oh.
At least you had some questions, a bit less time with me.
Yeah.
I want to touch upon inclusivity, because obviously that is such a big part of now this year. I think everyone's campaign, I think everyone is striving towards a sense of inclusivity.
Yeah.
Are there any areas where you think in education inclusivity could be improved? For example, we've touched about briefly with Thomas, decolonising the curriculum.
Yeah, I mean, I think with there is definitely. I think I sort of stand up here and sort of say that education does need to be representative of everybody. I think at the moment it isn't, and I think as someone in the role of VP Education, you need to be someone who is sort of displays those qualities, sort of being very open. But I think it's also I think that it's a case of running or sort of. Oh, I'm sorry.
I think it's the spotlight.
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely sort of. I don't believe education is inclusive or fully inclusive. I think that it is getting better, and I think it's not necessarily about improving what we've done. It's about taking what has been done already, which I think has been great. Seeing what VPs have done and the president have done over the last or the time I've been at university, and I think it's carrying on the same approach, really. So whether it's putting on events, getting out there, speaking to people. So I think that equality is important. We need to create a system which is inclusive and representative of everybody. But I think in terms of drastic changes, I think what we're doing at the moment is good. I think that it needs to be taken out and run forward and sort of updated for the future. Sorry, that was
No, don't worry. Well, I think we are come to the end of our conclusion, our interview. However, I would like to leave on my final question. Why should people vote for you?
Okay. I think my final thing really would be I don't sort of claim to be the best. I think I haven't ever really represented anything at this level before. But what I will do is I will work really hard for the student population in Exeter if elected, and that would be my promise really. Yeah.
Lovely. And before I send you off, where can people find you?
Sure, yeah. So I'm trying to build up my online presence at the moment. It has been a little bit delayed, but I'm hoping to put out a Facebook post later, and I'm hoping to be in the forum with leaflets and be around as much as I can over the next couple of days.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much for sitting with me today. Thank you. I'd like to invite my next candidate to join me, Surajit Sengupta. Would you need any help? Are you okay? Have you got it? Oh, lovely. Thank you. Hello, Surajit. Long time no see.
So that's why.
Oh, no worries. If I move this down a little bit. Go. Speak right into the mic.
Yeah.
Lovely. I'm going to start how I've started the interviews before you, saying, what are you expecting from this role?
See, if I get elected, so I will, as I stated also before in the previous debates, my main job is to make the curriculum lot more flexible for the students, because as I'm currently a student, I've heard lots of students currently finding this curriculum, which, for example, my course are a bit difficult because there are too many submissions simultaneously, so they can't able to enjoy their social life or able to explore any other hobbies. So my main job is to make the curriculum more flexible so that they can enjoy other things as well.
So you talk about making the curriculum more flexible. Yeah. Do you have any ideas in mind how you're going to implement this?
Yep. So mostly I will take a maximum amount of feedback from lots of students, and by this I will encourage students to be student reps, so that they can hear the feedbacks from other students. In this way, maximum feedbacks can be heard, and also I would love to communicate with the professors and the higher ups of the universities, so that and try to convince we'll try to convince them to make this curriculum so that it is for the betterment of the students, and they remain in the good state of mind.
So you just said about communicating with students and professors. Yeah. Again, as I've asked the others, how are you actually going to do this?
Students, they can by maximum face-to-face interactions, or for the students for online meets for the students who stays far off campuses. And also I would also for professors, you are saying I would also encourage them to the students to interact with the professors and not to feel shy or anything, and also will encourage students to also communicate more freely with their personal tutors who are assigned to them, because personal tutors also help them apart from the studies, also other things like finding accommodation or other things as well.
So you mentioned about the personal tutors.
Yeah.
Am I correct saying that? Lovely.
Yeah.
The personal tutors. How do you think you could, or the uni could, utilize personal tutors to another level, which would improve students' education?
Personally, I think that actually the university has assigned these personal tutors so that for specifically they can reach out to a particular person if they can't if they are unable to interact with the other tutors. So interact. I think personal tutors can help them in a more personal way also, apart from the academic way. Means in other things like as I said, accommodation, also other things as well. So yeah.
Lovely. So you said that they will help in personal as well as academic.
Yeah.
So talking about personal, I'm going to go back to similar questions that I asked Thomas earlier. We mentioned in the debate as well about ILPs and the problems we've had with students applying for extenuating circumstances. With the complaints from this year, how will you respond to ensure that the same complaints don't happen again?
Can you say me this little bit about IOPs?
So an ILP is an individual learning plan.
Okay.
So students can apply for one if they do have extenuating circumstances in order to get extra time or extra help.
Yeah. So if the students apply for the IOPs, so I will, for the IOPs that you are saying, I would just work with the other guild officers, and also I would work with the with the higher ups like the vice chancellors, and so that I can tell the problems of the students who are applied for these IOPs, to make it better.
Again, we're talking about feedback, how you talk to students. Again, with this, you talk to the students to make sure to know how to get better. Are there any strategies that you could implement? Are you thinking any forms, for example? Your the previous VP of Education wanted to introduced a feedback tile on the LE page. Do you have any ideas like that in mind?
Yeah, means about the specific modules. You're saying specific curriculum feedback of the modules.
Pardon?
You're saying about the feedback of the modules?
No, just feedback in general from students.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, they can post their feedback, means on this in means contact me by social media, through emails, also in person, and also in online video calls, means video conferencing like Zoom. And my main job is that they can reach out to me freely for whatever problems they have.
Lovely. So we're talking about whatever problems they have.
Yeah.
Obviously, COVID-19, this pandemic has completely changed the way our exams or our teaching is taking place in university. So with what has happened recently in mind, how would you prepare for any other additional help students will need if another event would happen again?
So if such kind of circumstance happen again, so I would, like said, I will that in this thing communication is very important. So I would take feedbacks and communicate with them, means what are the things, like in case of examinations or academic teaching, means what kind of mode they prefer. I mean the majority of them. Based on that, means I can work with other officers and the higher ups, which for the betterment of the students, means in case of exams, so that it's better in terms of university guidelines. Also helps the students as well.
Lovely. I want to go now back to more of the role in the educational side. Did you have any educational changes you have in mind that you would like to implement or really push if you were to get the job?
Like I said, yeah. So just my main job is to make the curriculum more flexible, and also the thing is, not along with the curriculum, also the timetables as well, so that they can get means they can go through the lectures in time. And so because there are lots of morning lectures the students can't able to attend because they live far away from the campus. So making the timetables flexible. Also would like to I know there is a specific feedback for the modules, but I would also like to introduce something like feedback for the modules and the tutors, and feedback for the personal tutors as well. Means how they are currently liking their personal tutors, communicating with them. So something like that.
Lovely. There you mentioned about timetables. I just had a question about how feasible that will be to make sure timetables are pushed back, seeing as this is all reliant on staff and professors being able to come in and give these lectures, and most people do work a 9 to 5. So how would you go about that?
Simply, I will take feedback about the timetables from both students as well as the professors, and think organize schedule accordingly so that it's for the betterment of both of them.
Lovely. I'm going to quickly now turn to the audience to see if we have any questions for anyone in person or online.
I've got one.
Oh, thank you.
You mentioned earlier, Surdeep, about personal tutors and how you'd be encouraging students to just get more in touch with them. If a student is undergoing a well-being difficulty, it can often become much more difficult for students to reach out. And even if facilities, are available, it would still seem to some a very daunting task to take that step. So I want to know, how specifically will you be trying to encourage those students to make sure that they still can make the most of their educational experience?
I completely understand that students who suffer from some issues, means like mentally, it's very tough for them to reach out. It's just like that. I will try to means my main job is that that they can I can freely communicate with them. Means they can say whatever like issues, anything they want to me, and I will encourage to approach them means the well-being services of the university, means to share with them whatever means they feel like, because the university services are there to help them out. And so the personal tutors also has the job to help the students in any aspects.
There we go. There's also one question that's come in to me from someone who's been looking through some of the personal statements, trying to make up their mind on who to vote for. And they wanted to ask you, what made you include the part about your love of music in the personal statement? Because as a job application for VP education, they don't really see the correlation between your love of music and why you'd be the best fit for the role.
Actually, it's just simply because it's just like a personal thing, because I am a big fan of music, and I actually play the piano, and I have a YouTube channel regarding that. So it's just like a personal thing, because the main thing is that I approached because as I said, that students who love who like engage in other hobbies, I would encourage I would make the curriculum in such a way that so that they can have easily join the other societies like the music society or the sports societies, so that they shouldn't come to Exeter only for studying, but to enjoy other extracurricular activities and make their university life memorable and special.
No more questions. Oh, you're back to me. Don't worry, we're almost done. I'm keeping an eye on the time, don't worry. So, talking about education, one of the biggest parts of our education is definitely our online examinations, especially seeing as this is what has come out of the pandemic. Recently, though, with January exams, new word, with January examinations, there was a lot of complaints received. I think the Guild received a lot of complaints from students, seeing as half were placed online and half in person. Firstly, I wanted to know your opinions and if you had any thoughts of what the future of examinations at this university would look like.
I can understand that students who live far away from the campuses, like other cities, it's really difficult for them to come to the campus and give examination in a particular amount of time. So the best thing is to take take advices or the feedbacks from the students in like what mode of examination then they prefer, and maybe and on that majority we can conduct offline examinations or online examinations. And the thing is that the students who can't make it to the campus, we can do one thing, that like 70% students who can come to the campus, they can give their online in campus examinations, At the same time, we can make the online examinations available to the students who can't come to campus at the same time.
See, I have a question there about fairness.
Okay.
Will that be just for all students if, for example, person do mine in person, but someone could be at home and maybe have an open book exam instead?
Actually, the thing I said is completely related to a closed book exam, nothing open book, because the thing is that whatever means I can say in my personal thing that whatever questions have comes in the courseworks or in the exams, we can't easily find anything on Google. So I think even it's a closed book examination, I think the student can't able to get resources from the Google, because the examination questions are quite difficult.
But
so it's not easy.
How can you, I've got two questions for that. How can you ensure that the people at home will be doing a closed book exam? And secondly, that might only work for your degree, but will that work for all the others?
Maybe there should be something that might monitor, or they might flag them if they open some other tabs or something, which that system can easily detect, and then that examination thing closes down immediately, something like that. I think that will be fair.
And with regards to other courses, for example, a lot of people who do a humanity degree feel as though in the past it's a bit useless, more like a memory exam, whereas now they have a week to do an essay. They find that far more rewarding. Do you think that there will be some disparity between degrees on the way that exams are put out?
Means you are saying that students who are they are preferring the essay thing more preferable to the exams. Yeah, so I think it's completely upon the students what kind of assessments they like to have, and based on that we can communicate with the professors and make that what kind of assessment mode they want. We can make it happen like that.
Lovely.
It's not that we have to judge a student by the examinations. We can assess them in some other way also.
Lovely. Well, I think our time is drawing to a close, but the last question, like I gave to our other two candidates, why should people vote for you as opposed to your opposition? So
students should vote for me because I'm happy to help them, happy to reach out to them whenever they want based on anything, and I'm here to make their academic life much more easier, and also will happy to encourage them in also other activities so that they can enjoy their university life and make it more memorable these years. And because it's a very important these are the most important years of any person's life. Also will encourage them to most of the students be the student reps or equality reps, so that in this way we can get feedbacks from maximum number of students from Exeter.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much. Where can people find your campaign?
So actually, I'm planning to do my campaigns on my especially on my social media and on my Facebook, Instagram, on my YouTube channel, and so they can find me at Soradeep or BTUzik. It's my name of the YouTube channel. So I'm planning to start my campaign over there.
Lovely. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
And I think that draws the third session for VP Education to an end. Just a reminder that voting was open yesterday. It's still open now, and you have until Thursday at 4 p.m. to get your votes in. And as you can see, the count, I was going to say countdown. It's a count. The vote count up behind me has been going. It's been increasing, and it's gone up by 1,000, I think, from our candidate session yesterday. So keep getting your votes in. And we'll find out on Thursday, or Friday's results. Thursday, 4 p.m, get them in by. But fortunately, from me, that is all. You'll be joined very shortly by my co-head of news, Reese, for the next Meet the Candidate session. And we'll have a final one later this evening.